Alrighty, so for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, this is a review for Chapter 1 for Security Plus 701. And it's just going to be notes that I've taken. So this is what I'm going to be focusing on. I don't know if you necessarily want to focus on this, but whatever, teach his own. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So for Chapter 1, the meat and potatoes of it was pretty much the control categories and also the control types. So just off rip, there are 4 control categories. There's technical controls, managerial controls, operational controls, and physical controls. I think I might try to come up with some sort of like acronym, TMOP. I don't know. I'll think about it and I'll probably drop it in later. But okay, let's go over technical controls. So from the book, I got that technical controls are logical and technical controls are logical and performed by a computer or a technical system. I have examples of technical controls include authentication. So think like SSO, think of YubiKey, stuff like that. Data classification, so confidential, highly confidential, general PII, sensitive PII, that sort of thing. Cryptography / encryption, so think of AES 256, TLS 1.2, 1.3, etc. And for examples of where you can find technical controls, I put security systems, and in parentheses I put like the badge systems. So think of when like you're going into your office or something like that and you badge in. Logical access control systems, firewall configurations, which is like self-explanatory, pretty much how you set up your firewall, and session timeouts. So again, that's more configurations, pretty much like how long it has before like your computer goes idle. So is that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, etc. And remember, this is under technical controls. So moving on to managerial controls. These are controls that focus on decisions and the management of risk and how the security of data and systems is managed. And this is performed by managers and executives. So I have examples of managerial controls include regulatory and compliance. So think of like your security frameworks, your NIST, stuff like that, your SDLC, so your software development lifecycle. Things like putting security policies in place, security awareness training, change management, etc. And I think the key for this one is when they say managerial, so just think of the management controls. So again, it focuses on the decision and management of risk and how the security of data is managed. I know I just said that, but I wanted to reiterate that because it's like, okay, how are we managing the security as it compares to what we have to do legally? And that's going to follow under regulatory and compliance. For SDLC, that's a good example because it's like, okay, in the life cycle of our software development, are we doing our checks and balances? Are we going ahead and doing a static testing? Are we doing dynamic testing? That sort of thing. And that has to be done, you know, each step has to be ticked or, you know, completed before you move on to the next one. It's a requirement just to pretty much know that it's secure. Don't talk about this. So don't talk about my cover. So look, I'm gonna take it off for you because I don't want y'all talking shit. Because I actually, shit, maybe I ain't gonna take it off. I'm motherfucking whooping my ass. Okay, I actually am on the go a lot. So this motherfucker has been through it and it actually works. You see it was a little war damage, but I'm gonna take it off for y'all be talking about me, calling me poor and shit. So so next we have operational controls, and these are a top priority and are executed by people with technical expertise who must have an understanding of strategic security measures management wants them to implement. They're also responsible for increasing individual and group security. So in my mind, I approach this as, for operational controls, it's like, this isn't management. It's going to be, you know, your analysts, stuff like that, who are implementing your firewalls and your configurations and stuff like that. And pretty much following the policies and procedures, you know, that were given to them under whatever, you know, security and compliance that they have to follow, which comes down from management. And examples of operational controls are incident response, defense against direct access to data by protecting backup media, disaster recovery plans, and facility design. And in parentheses, I have building layout, exit surveillance systems, guard placement. And again, operational controls, just remember somebody told them what they wanted them to do and they're just executing that. And they're following the frameworks and policies. So operations, I would just kind of remember that. And especially when it comes to like incident response, there's a way, a process and procedure to respond to a security incident. You know, you have certain people you have to contact within a certain amount of time. You also have to possibly get in contact with like law enforcement and, you know, just different agencies and so on. So that goes into like the operations of it. Regular training is also an example of operational controls. So moving on, we have physical controls. And these are the first line of defense in preventing unauthorized physical access to buildings and secure areas that have equipment like server rooms. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So examples of physical controls are logging building access on who comes and goes, badge access to secure areas, security guards for like roaming patrols, CCTV surveillance. So yeah, for this, I would just remember it's what is in between, I guess, the outside and whatever secure area. So like I said, when it comes to like logging, building access, you know, you can do that by the badge system, or you can have like a receptionist or a security guard actually, logging who's coming in and out. You know how you can sign in on a sheet with the date, the time, your name. Sometimes you have to have your ID. When it comes to badge access to secure areas, like I said earlier, like server rooms, because you want to know who has access to that just in case something does go wrong. Like, okay, who was in here? What was they in here for? CCTV, that is just, monitoring where people are and just having a record of that to look back on. Security guard, Roman patrols, again, that's a physical control because that's actually somebody that's walking around. So those are the 4 types of control categories. And I'll repeat them again. Technical, managerial, operational, and physical. And like I said, I wanted to come up with something so we could remember the 4 control categories. So the beginning of each one is TMOP. I'm trying to think, and y'all know I'm a little ghetto, so I'm trying to think of something that I could remember. I'm thinking too many ops. I want to say pussy, but I don't want to get flagged. What else can I say for P? Too many ops, pussy. That's how we gonna remember the 4 controls for now. The 4 control categories. Too many ops, pussy. So technical for 2, managerial for many, operational for ops, physical for pussy. If you can come up with something for the P, drop it in the comments because that's a little much. But that's a good way to remember it. All right, so now we're moving on to the control types. So we have control categories, and then now we have control types. And these is separated into preventative, deterrent, detective, corrective, compensating, and directive. So let's go ahead and start from the top. When we talk about preventative controls, these controls are employed before an event occurs and are designed to prevent incidents from occurring. They enforce security policies and are sometimes referred to as deterrent controls. And this is usually not optional. So before we go on, you know how I just said these can be referred to as deterrent controls? Some of these overlap and it really can be confusing. So if any of you have any suggestions on how to differentiate each control type, let me know, because again, there is a lot of overlap because it's like, oh, this can be under deterrent or preventative, and it's like, okay, this can be under detective and something else. So it's like, like, what do I remember? What is first to come to mind? But anyway, so back to preventative controls, or not preventative, preventive controls. Examples of preventive controls are passwords, access control lists, also known as ACL, separation of duties. So this is so you can basically have that separation so there's not like fraud or, things like that. intrusion prevention or intrusion detection systems, and RAID 1, which prevents data loss. So again, I know I went through the last few, but like passwords, this is a preventive control because it's, you know, not denying access, but it's only allowing access to the person who has that password. So whether you need to get into a system, an app, whatever. Access control list, this is just a way to do like role-based authentication and like role-based, like, okay, so if you're the admin, you're not going to have the same responsibilities and access as, you know, just a general user, you know, so you have to have that. All right, so moving on to deterrent controls. Deterrent controls attempt to deter threat actors from executing breaches on the network and its devices. They are similar to preventive controls because they are both trying to prevent a security incident from occurring by discouraging a threat actor from proceeding. You see how I said they overlap? Okay, so an example of deterrent controls, I have a system warning banner. So like, you know, when you log into a system, probably like your work computer, or, you know, if you're on like a government computer or something like that, how you have the warning banner that says, you know, warning, your activity will be monitored. If you're unauthorized from accessing the system, don't do it, blah, blah, blah. That's what I'm talking about. That's a deterrent, because if you see that pop up and you're like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't be logging in on this, that's going to deter you. You know what I mean? All right, so moving on to detective controls. These controls monitor and detect unauthorized behavior both internally and externally. They monitor active attacks and provide insight after an attack has occurred during the post-mortem incident analysis. These controls typically alert to the failure of other controls, such as preventive, deterrent, and compensating. So I think what you need to remember here for detective, again, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's detecting something. So an example of that is like, all right, so for an example, I have audit logs, reviewing audit logs. This is a good detective control because if you have your monitoring login, if you have your SIM in place, it's going to tell you who was doing what at what time on what system. And, you know, that is literally like a point in time stamp. For intrusion detection, you have an intrusion detection system, also known as IDS. That's gonna alert you, like, okay, somebody accessed this. They were doing this, X, Y, and Z. They tampering with that. It's gonna let you know, and it's gonna send an alert to whoever is monitoring that system. And typically there's like a team that reviews the logs, and they're supposed to like do frequent reviews, but I've seen a lot of like active monitoring. So like as it's happening, that alert is getting sent and they're reviewing it. You know, depending on the business, those alerts are reviewed like daily, every other day, weekly. It just depends. But a lot of times you'll see active monitoring. So more examples, I mentioned having a SIM, which is a security information and event management system. Another one is antivirus and anti-malware. And again, these are detective controls. Moving on to corrective controls. These are reactive and used after an incident has occurred to limit the damage and to recover and restore a system quickly. They include activities like sending a guard to block an intruder or quarantining a compromised system. And corrective controls include all controls used during an incident. Examples of corrective controls are like data backups. So if somebody does like ransomware or something like that, you already have that data backup. You can be like, screw you, buddy. We still got our shit. Like, so make sure you have up-to-date data backups. That's a corrective control. Again, security guard deployment, and you have operating system updates and upgrades. So just making sure that your systems are up to date. And like, sometimes, like, how you get your Apple updates and shit like that, and it's always like bug fixes, same shit. Then we have compensating controls, which are also known as alternate controls. These satisfy impractical, costly, or difficult security requirements and reduce the risk of an existing control weakness. Activities might include increased access monitoring because segregation of duties can't be implemented. And you usually see that in like smaller companies, where people are doing multiple roles, but you still need that oversight to make sure that Jan in accounting ain't fucking up the money. She's not fucking up the church's money. Because she's, might be doing accounting, she might be writing the checks, and balancing the books. So she has like a lot of duties, but you need oversight on that. So you need somebody that's going to go back and be like, hey, what was this for? You need to sign off and verification. I'm trying to find my place because I just hit a button and that motherfucker hopped to a different page. Okay. Another example is using a script to detect patterns in outbound communication instead of using a DLP solution, which is data loss prevention solution. And you can do that because you can program a script or write a program, which is a script, to determine like patterns. So certain patterns are like social security numbers, repeating digits, a certain set of digits. You can program that in instead of using a DLP solution. Granted, I do have a note that says these controls often do not give the same level of security as the original intended control. But again, that's why it's a compensating control. So it's like, it's here, this is what we have, but it might not necessarily be 100%, whereas it could be probably like 95, 90, you know what I mean? More examples of compensating controls. Again, like I said, increased system monitoring. So that's going to be probably like for your segregation of duties, that type of thing, oversight. If you don't have like a badging system, you can have a front desk receptionist that is providing that authentication, and she can verify like a person's identity by looking at their ID and checking the name and making sure that everything lines up. And then I have pattern recognition scripts in lieu of DLP. And last but not least, we have directive controls, which are also known as instructive controls. And these are used to guide the operation and use of systems in an organization. This includes providing detailed instructions in the form of policy guidelines for the use of approved hardware, software, and security measures in an organization. The guidelines include roles and responsibilities, steps to be taken, and the expectations around policy adherence. Security awareness is a key directive control that educates staff on security policies, procedures, potential threats, and actions that will be taken if security awareness isn't adhered to. So pretty much, when I think of directive controls, that is pretty much like policies and procedures. And then just remember the security awareness training. And the policies and procedures are going to tell you in a detailed manner, okay, this is what you need to do, this is how you're going to do it. And this is what's going to happen if you don't do it this way. And that's why they call it like an instructive control. It's giving you the instructions right there. So examples of directive controls are software download policies and procedures. This is a big one because you don't want employees just downloading unauthorized software. So there's going to be a process and procedure for that. So it's usually like you go in and it's like, okay, I need this particular program. So you put in like a request for it, then provide a business justification, and then that goes to your manager, and then your manager probably sends it up to the IT department, and they're, probably verifying it, like, okay, what do you need this for? Does it make sense? How much money does it fit in the budget, etc. And then they approve that, and then they say, yes, you can go ahead and download the software. Instead of you just all willy-nilly downloading the software that might be, open source, which might have bugs and, just a lot of vulnerabilities and weaknesses. And then another one that I have is security awareness. And that's because they mentioned that in the book like a couple times. So again, the security awareness is going to tell you several things, depending on like your industry and stuff, but a lot of it is pretty standard. So it's going to tell you about like phishing, about what to look for, with like suspect emails, whaling, which is like the CEO of the company. That's why it's the whale, it's the big fish, which quiet as it's kept, those be the main ones. Those be the main culprits, because a lot of times they don't do the security awareness training because they feel like it's beneath them. The whole time they be fucking 60, old to the motherfucker, don't know what the hell going on, and they just be like, sure, click, and now your whole motherfucking system is compromised and your ass got some ransomware. And then also they tell you about like common vulnerabilities, what else? And just your a lot of times they'll put in like if you need additional training depending on your role. So if like you're a programmer, perhaps like OWASP or something like that. So security awareness is really important. And so just to reiterate what the 6 control types are, we have preventive, deterrent, detective, corrective, compensating, and directive. And that's PDCCCG. Pretty dope. I'm trying to think of how we can remember this. Pretty dope days coming closer. Damn it. So pretty dope days coming closer. Damn it. So pretty, preventive, dope, deterrent, Days is detective. Coming is corrective. Closer is compensating. And directive is damning. So preventive, deterrent, detective, corrective, compensating, directive. What I say? Pretty day. I don't know what I said. I'm gonna look back. If you got something easier, let me know. But I'm gonna put it up on the screen. Pretty days. What did I say? Something. I'm coming closer. Damn it. I don't know. I'm gonna put that shit on the screen. But that is what I have for chapter 1. Let me know if you have any questions. And if you have any tips, hints, whatever, drop that shit in the chat, because we're gonna pass the certification one way or another. Okay? All right, y'all. Bye.